to consider zoning petition 23069 from Medina Road Residences. Case, this is a conditional use request for conditional use for planned development in the R2 zoning district, namely 70 attached dwelling units on 44 building pads, with the following exceptions. A, to reduce the front yard setback from required 30 feet to approximately 18 feet. B, to increase the maximum height from 36 feet to approximately 40 feet. C, to increase the maximum FAR from 0.25 to approximately 0.64. This matter was published in the Daily Herald on October 23, 2023. And I have objections filed by DuPage, the Village of Addison, and they've given a short write-up. Village of Bloomingdale has presented a letter in opposition, and the Bloomingdale Fire District objects, and it's presented some a detailed letter. Ordinarily, I mark exhibits, but we have quite a number of exhibits, and I'm going to let the petitioner do that as he begins his presentation. Let me say that this is some of you may be familiar with this because I understand there's a background to this. No one on this board has any knowledge of what has gone before. This is a brand new matter for us, so we're here to learn what the petitioner requests and to develop a record. We won't make a decision tonight. I'm not sure that we'll conclude the hearing tonight. We may indeed, but perhaps not. We have an 8 o'clock limitation on the proceeding. And if necessary, we'll reconvene to a continued hearing. Before we begin, I'd like to indicate that at the end of the hearing, after the petitioner's presentation, I will take public comment, which must be made under oath and will be made a part of the record on which this board will be allowed to consider in its deliberations about this case. Before the hearing begins, I'm going to invite public comment, which is not to be made under oath, but will not be part of the record, and therefore won't be considered by the board. So if anyone wants to make general public comment, I'll take that before the hearing begins, namely right now. If so, step up to the microphone and make your comment. All right, I don't see anyone. Yes, sir. I would like to go right ahead. Yeah, right. Is there only one person? All right. Tell us your name, where you live, and I presume your public comment relates to this case. You understand that it will not be part of the record of this case. I would prefer it be part of the record. I'm sorry. Okay, no problem. All right, then I'll call Mr. Lukahans representing the petitioner. Would you begin, sir, with identification of the exhibits? Yes.
Yeah, we have in front of you today 12 exhibits that we have at this point. For the record, exhibit 1 is the survey. Exhibit 2 is the site plan, which may have on it more than you normally get. If you want a little more bare bones, we'll have it for you by the next meeting or hearing. Exhibit 3 is just a rendering of the style of the building. Exhibit 4 is an aerial of the area, which we will discuss further later. All of these, except probably the survey, we'll discuss later. Exhibit 5 is just a zoning map showing Bloomingdale and Addison. It's an overlay of Bloomingdale's and Addison zoning in this particular area. Exhibit 6 is a project summary. Exhibit 7 is a workforce housing project summary. Exhibit 8 is a November 3rd, 2023 traffic study by Norman J. Toberman and Associates. Exhibit 9 is an addendum to that study dated November 28th, 2023. And exhibit 10 is a existing site drainage plan, or showing the site drainage. Mr. Toberman will talk about that more in a minute. Exhibit 11 is just a CV of projects of the applicant. And exhibit 12 is a site plan with some turning radiuses and the landscape plan.
Okay, I would ask you to consider a somewhat more conventional site plan, which is generally in the form of the survey showing the improvements on the survey rather than this, which is a little somewhat considerably more colorful, but not quite as instructive. I'll note we'll take all of your exhibits as part of our record. The notion of the renderings, which is exhibit 3, is not, I mean, it may be illustrative of what you propose, but you know, we don't need to spend a lot of time on that because we're not going to tie, as we do with the site plan, we're not going to tie any approval that may occur to the rendering. And then the other items, I don't have any particular comment at this point. So we'll take all of those into consideration and you can begin your presentation.
Yeah, we won't spend any real time on the site plan.
Mr. Chairman,
the site plan?
I mean, on the renderings.
Okay,
You may speak up.
do you want me to swear everybody in right now?
yeah. Whoever said that, thanks. Let's have all your witnesses sworn in at the same time.
Yeah.
You do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give it just cause now hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Could you identify him?
Oh, I'm sorry. We have Mr. James Gray, who is a principal and the founder of Cornice and Rose, as well. And Cornice's Rose is the operator manager of the LLC that is Medina Road Development Company, that is the proposed applicant. And then Cliff Toberman, who is our professional engineer.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
For the record, again, Phil Lukey-Hans on behalf of the applicant, Medina Road Development Company, LLC, which was established in 2016 as this Medina Road Development Company, LLC, is a single purpose entity for this real estate. The underlying owner is Cornice and Rose International out of Barrington, and they will develop the project. Cornice and Rose is a very accomplished and developer who has been around for a number of years, and a CV of Cornice and Rose along with CVs of Mr. Gray and Mr. Toberman are at exhibit 11. Not going to spend a lot of time on that. You already have seen the survey, so that's introduced into evidence. As Mr. Carpel said, the applicant is proposing a conditional use for a planned development on a 5.4 acre parcel. Proposed attached dwelling unit project is in an R2 zoning district under DuPage County. We are seeking several exceptions, not variations, as you know. For one, for an increased height of the building from 36 to 40 feet, increase the maximum floor area ratio from 0.26 to 0.55. There is the concept of a front yard variation. I don't really believe it's necessary, but I will explain why Mr. Haas suggested we do it.
He's not here. Like,
If you look at the site plan, there's actually a 50-foot front yard on this project between the front yard of Medina Road and the buildings. There was some concern that maybe there could be a thought that this could be the front, given that these are private streets, though I don't believe they are, but that's why the concept, that's the 18 feet that you see instead of a 30-foot front yard. I don't believe that the county believes that that's the actual front yard, but it was kind of a belts and suspenders. These exceptions are actually in line with the area and the neighboring developments, as you will see as we proceed. For example, if you look at the aerial, Proposed development is here in green with the white. And you will see that the setback in the front is actually behind the development to the north, which is a multi-family or townhomes. It's actually further set back. And behind you have very large industrial buildings, part of the Hamilton Partners development, that are 35, 40 feet high industrial buildings. So, and as you will hear in a minute, the FAL of our property, our proposed development is actually less than the FAR development to the north. Products are very modern, good looking set of buildings. Someone asked, why are you doing this? That was one of the complaints of, I think it was Addison or Bloomingdale, that it didn't fit with the neighborhood next to it. So that's why we're bringing that. There's a project summary in your binder as Exhibit 6. I'll try and go through what I believe are the most salient facts and features regarding the proposed development, so you don't have to read through all of it tonight. And it's boring enough to hear me say it, but it's worse to read it, I'm sure, on top of that. So you have a site plan, and I know it's probably more than you need, so we will give you what you're asking for, but what you will see is we have 2 access points on the Medina Road. The driveway will be private. It's not being dedicated. Parking, each unit will have its own garage for parking, plus room for an additional car or cars stacked in front. Pursuant to request of the Bloomingdale Fire Protection District, we will be putting no parking on one side of the street so as not to negatively impact any emergency responder vehicles, such as fire trucks. I think it's Exhibit 12, shows the turning radius for fire trucks, so that you can see that fire trucks can make these turns. Landscaping is also on Exhibit 12. This exhibit or this project will be complying with the DuPage County landscape requirements, obviously. Sanitary is on site. It is in this blue area, which is actually to the east, if you're looking north-south. And that is where the sanitary will be. It's an on-site sanitary system that has been approved for use. And as you know, sanitary systems, on-site sanitary are allowed under the DuPage County zoning ordinance, as are wells. The wells actually show up in blue, these little blue, that's where the 4 wells will be for the project. You will see also that there is a fair amount of green space on this development. There is stormwater detention, which is here in the middle. It will just be a detention. It is not a retention pond, but it also creates amenity of green space and open space for the project. Obviously, the project will be complying, if I haven't said it before, with stormwater regulations. Mr. Toblerman will take a minute here very shortly and tell you the compliance, and as we just, he will also say, or I can say, well, I'll let Mr. Toblerman speak about it. Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm with Norman J. Tollerman Associates. We're a family engineering firm for many, many years. I'm the principal engineer. And I'm well familiar with this project as we've been working on this for close to 2 years, year and a half for sure. And so I'm quite familiar with all the stormwater elements of the project. So let me start with the existing. I don't know if it's correct. Sure. Okay, this is Exhibit 10. So the existing site, a portion drains directly to the right of way. We'll call it the west portion of the site. That a little better? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go.
And the eastern portion of the site, drains north. Okay, there's a berm completely along the east property line. Drainage from this area drains right into the development, Nicola Court development town, right there. And there's a catch basin today located on the southeast portion of the Nicola Courts. So, our professional surveyor went out to verify that right here drainage today. Now, where does the Nicola Court drainage go? It's got detention and runs out to the, and eventually being restricted, as we're doing, being very restricted in their stormwater detention, is heading northbound on the east side of Medina Road. And in those, you can see the storm sewer along the east side with discharge in that ditch. So let me reinforce something what's very important in my years, 30 years now of doing stormwater detention modeling and so forth through a variety of projects. The best thing you could do in any area that's been redeveloped is that stormwater detention. DuPage County has, to credit, so DuPage County has one of the most restrictive release rates that's allowed for your development projects. Barring none of all my experience in many, many regions of Illinois. So, the good news is, let's get back to the site plan. Is approximately 75 to 80% of that storage, of that required storage, will be in the central grass detention basin. So two things are going on. One thing, the basin probably 3 or 4 foot deep, about 4 foot. Okay, that's about the most you could, as depth you could manage, and still get it out to the right of way. With restricted, remember, there's always a restrictor. 95% of the drainage runoff today is going to be restricted on site. Okay. Now, many frequent storm events by ordinance require infiltration. So the design also includes infiltration in the main basin. So therefore, for 1 1/4, 1.5 inch rainfall events, they're absorbed basically by the grass, the underlying gravel with underdrain underneath. And it slows any type of runoff. And the reason I bring that up, what's important for the implementation of the DuPage ordinance, there's a lot of frequent events that are only 1 inch, less than an inch, a little greater than an inch. And that's, over time, that's much of the rainfall, and you'll see throughout a year. So that the important thing is getting absorbed, okay, versus directly. And there's grass out there now. I mean, today it's going to be absorbed by what's on the property today. So we're trying to replicate that, call it, with what's happening even today in a project that has limited development with a number of residences. So that is the main information with regard to providing the stormwater detention. What's not provided in the basin might be a little bit of pipe storage.
So I guess the main question I have is, will the stormwater release rate on this property be improved, and if so, how much?
It will be improved with the release rates being really decreased by 95%. When you look at such a restrictive rate that DuPage County requires.
Okay, let me interrupt
Yes.
now. So we have this. One of Bloomingdale's objection. Bloomingdale has this objection related to where the stormwater is going to go, and then it's somehow they think going to all go, more of it's going to go to Bloomingdale than before. Is that a fair statement?
No, we're not. And keep in mind, we actually shot it. Our professional surveyor went out there. I walked it personally. I personally walked the entire site, walked this area in question, and it all drains north today along the Medina Road eventually. It goes to Nicola. Nicola goes out to the ditch out in front by a storm sewer. So you are correct.
So
We're actually reducing to Bloomingdale.
So no one
That's
will
correct,
actually,
rate of runoff.
no one actually will receive runoff that they're no longer, that they're not receiving. Is that a fair statement?
Say it one more time?
Is anybody going to have an increased runoff of stormwater versus what they have?
No, sir.
Thank you, thanks.
Phil, on stormwater, could I just ask if, discussions have begun with the county stormwater department, and if so, what's the status of those discussions? And then secondly, as a general matter, what's the condition of this property in a heavy rain event?
There have been discussions with the county. I think those are preliminary. I don't believe there's any concerns from the county. I think that's part of what the county response has been. As far as current flooding, I don't, Mr. Tobin or Mr. Gray, do you know?
Oh, everything says they know.
Okay, so
No, what, you don't know?
No, I don't know. I do
Okay.
not know the impact of.
No, I just,
In a heavy rain, what does the ditch look like? We're
Yeah.
at the upper level, we're at the high level. My take is it's going north. And really, since there's such a slope on that road, water is the city.
okay,
So
thanks.
we're in a higher elevation.
okay, and I hesitate to say this, but I know what, we're going to hear because we've been through this a little bit. At zoning hearings, we often hear the statement from objectors, 5 pounds of something or 10 pounds of something in a 5-pound bag. And while we may not hear that tonight in the exact terms, I'm sure we're gonna hear it in some way, shape, or form. There can be no doubt that the proposed development has more units per acre than its neighbor to the north. No doubt about it. It has 12.9 units per acre. The development to the north only has 8.1. However, that's only the beginning of the story in the inquiry here. What you have to understand looking at exhibit 4 again, is you can actually pretty much see it here, the green space on the proposed development versus the green space directly to the north. The Court Court development, 67% of the development is impervious surface, 67. The proposed development, 46%. So reduce this impervious surface will be 21% less, so probably about a third less. The Nuclear Court Development FAR, which has been approved by Edison, 0.67. The FAR we're asking for is 0.55. The Nuclear Court Development is building over 28% of the development. Has built over 28% of the development has buildings on it. Our proposed development, building coverage is only 18%. So even with the greater number of units, this is a less dense development. When I say greater number, greater per acre, obviously it has a greater number to start with. But how can we have more units but actually be less dense? The answer is that some of the units will be smaller than others, and what many of us may be used to in DuPage County. Unit sizes will range from approximately 700 square feet to 2,700 square feet per unit. And this goes to the public health, safety, and welfare, and the overall DuPage County, as we know, or as the county has said on a number of occasions over the past 2 years, has a housing shortage, especially for those residents of our county who are middle class and maybe young, have jobs such as teachers, first responders, union workers. These are hardworking people we need in our towns that may work here and or grow up here that cannot afford the higher end economic housing that we have in DuPage County. Hence, the county has started a workforce housing task force that is trying to find ways to provide more and less costly housing for our hardworking people. This hopefully is one of the first steps in this program and the directive of the county board. County, as some of you know, is investing millions of dollars in this concept generally. This project may not make a huge dent, but the problem is going to have to be solved in so many small steps. And we're going to have to start these types of projects throughout the county. We hope this is the first step of many. 14 units of this 70, or 20% of the proposed units, are and will be set aside and guaranteed to be housing for working class residents. They will be workforce housing, 20% of this development. Let's be clear, this is not subsidized. This is not Section 8. These will, the 20% will be smaller units, no doubt about it, and rented at a rate that is approximately 20% less than market for those per square foot. From the outside and even on the inside of the development, unless you're in the unit, you will not be able to tell which units are the workforce housing. And that's important so that we're not stigmatizing people who are in housing under this program. A more detailed summary of all the factors and the calculations that go into the workforce housing is shown as Exhibit 7 in your packet. To make these types of development work, you have to build more units per acre. However, as we show here and can be seen, they really do not have to be more dense. Hence why the lot coverage, the impervious surface green space, is actually higher than the developments in the north that Addison previously approved, while now objecting to this project as too dense. They say this project is too dense. This is less than the one they approved directly to the north. The subject property and the proposed conditional uses meet the standards of the DuPage County zoning ordinance for conditional uses I will discuss. I understand the question that this is a planned development, so even though it's a conditional use, should we be treating it as a conditional use under living word or using some other standard? It is important to note or to understand that not only under the DuPage County zoning ordinance and the R2 district at issue, it is a conditional use that many, if not most zoning ordinances treat a planned development as a conditional use. That sentence was not great, sorry. Both the municipal and county special use statutes discuss, and when I say special use, I think you're all on the board know it's special use and conditional use is interchangeable. In our county, we use the word conditional use, but it's really a special use other places. There's no change. Both municipal and county ordinances discuss, or the statutes discuss planned developments as developments that can be treated as special or conditional uses. The county statutes, for the record, 65 LLCS 5/11-13-1.1. Further, the treatise Illinois Real Property advises that planned developments are, quote, usually treated as PUD or as a special use for zoning purposes. Courts have historically analyzed planned developments that were listed as a special or conditional use in the zoning ordinance under the same standards for a special use that they treat every other special use. And it's cited to LaSalle National Bank versus Lake County and SHOUB, SHOUB properties. While we have found cases where planned developments have been treated as a conditional use after living word, we have not been able to find a single case that has said that a planned development in those circumstances should be treated under any other statutes besides those normally associated with special or conditional uses. Hence, there can be little doubt that living word applies to this development and this hearing. Before I go on to discuss the special use standards set forth in the zoning ordinance, it's important to discuss living word a little bit. I know you're probably tired of hearing of it over the years, but I feel like I need to make the record for it. As you know, living word is the seminal case decided by the Illinois Supreme Court related to conditional uses. A special or conditional use is, quote, a type of property use that is expressly permitted within a zoning district by the controlling ordinance, as long as the use meets certain criteria or conditions, end quote. By sharp contrast to a variance, the inclusion of a special use is tantamount to a legislative finding that the permitted use as such is neither inconsistent with the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare, and not out of harmony with the general zoning plan. And it is, quote, tantamount to a legislative conclusion that the use is appropriate in the district. That's living word. That presumption can only be overcome by clear and convincing evidence that the granting of the special use will result in real or substantial harm to the public health, safety, welfare, or morals. For the record, we cite Thompson versus Cook County Board of Appeals, which relies actually on a second district case of Cornell versus County DuPage. And Cornell was also a special use / planned development. And many of you may know it. I think I probably drank that as a kid, which was the Four Lakes development. That's how that came in. Here, no such clear and convincing evidence to overcome that presumption exists, and the proposed development complies with all the special use standards. Let me, for a few minutes, go through the standards as quickly as I can. and also explain kind of the area, et cetera.
So before you went living word and just accepting your legal evaluation on its face, is it your view that those same presumptions of living word as to the conditional use in any way apply to the exceptions? Do the exceptions enjoy the same favor?
Yes, they're clearly, it's not a variation, and they're part of the analysis of a special use. What you have the ability to do is, or the board does, is grant those exceptions under living word. But if there is something that needs to be put in place, which you often do, because of a particular parcel to make it appropriate for the health, safety, welfare, so you have that right to do that as well.
And then just another clarification. Your publication requests relief in the FAR to 0.64. Did you say 5.5?
Yeah, that was an earlier calculation. We're actually, see, it's gonna be 0.55.
So there, should we take that as an amendment right now?
Sure, please.
Go right ahead. Sorry to.
That's okay. Sorry, excuse me. Special use standard number one, in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this chapter, will not be injurious to the neighborhood and detrimental to public welfare or in conflict with county's comprehensive plan. The proposed use as a planned development is a conditional use in the R2, as we've said, and we've talked about living word. I'm going to talk about the area. I'm going to talk relate to the area, which is exhibit 4 here for a second, and kind of talk about the neighborhood. As we talked about, it starts to the north, directly to the north, you have 2 townhome developments. Then you have, now it's, and I can't remember what it is, it's like an office use of a utility. And then you have the gas station, which has, I think it's a Shell, I'm not sure what it is, but I think it's a Shell, and it's got, you know, the blackjack, the machines, right, and a car wash. Pretty big station. To the west is very nice single family homes. But they are separated from this development by Medina Road, which is a county road. To the south, you have honestly a very nice house directly to the south. And you have some nice homes, a little home out there, and then you get down to a bunch of forest preserve. This is not a heavily traveled road. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. And to the east, you have the Hamilton Parks development, part of Hamilton Parks, right? Hamilton Partners, excuse me, I should know that they're a client. I should at least be able to say their name. Which is industrial, large development up and down Swift Road, and it backs up immediately to these industrial buildings, as do all of the townhomes to the north. Hence, you have a pretty good transitional use here. Because of the backing up to the industrial, there's not a lot of other types of less intensive uses that you could do. People historically, I know there's one home or two to the south, but historically people don't like to put up large estate homes backing up to heavily industrial areas. The other thing, and the height of those is obviously they're very large buildings, as you can see. I already talked about the same thing. There's no roadways on the outside of the property. You have I know there's also a landscape plan, but it shows up here maybe a little easier. Heavily trying to heavily screen the south. So the north, you have the screening on this side, and then you have another 90 feet before you hit the this development here. So I guess it would be this way. You have another 90-foot lot that we own as part of this development before you get to the townhomes to the north. School district, just for the record, had, one of the questions they had was the number of school-age children. We're estimating based on census data that we'll have between 22 and 49 school-age children living on the subject property if the development's approved. In essence, this does, as I showed, it does fit the neighborhood. It is very similar to a style as far as density. It's actually less dense than the property to the north. No doubt there will be more cars than the property in the north, but we will talk about that in a moment with the traffic. Number two, standard, we're not impairing adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property. Proposed height at 40 feet was only 4 feet more than allowed in R2 by right, and we're not impairing any light or air to surrounding properties. The setback to the east is at 39 feet. I think it's only required to be 30. The setbacks to the south, 25 feet, which is the setback required under the county zoning ordinance. The setbacks in the north is 25 plus another 90, so it's 115 feet. The north south, or the setback to Medina Road is 50 feet. As we showed, it's actually set back further than the development directly to the north. So it's not like this is going to sit in front of that development. And then you have the right of way. So that 50 feet is only going to here, and then you have an additional 25, 30 feet of right of way of green space right away before you hit the road. There's no indication that this will impair the supply of air or air to the adjacent properties, especially considering the setbacks are all as set forth in the zoning ordinance. Number three, will not diminish the right of land and building in the vicinity of the proposed conditional use. Again, looking at the aerial, it's important to look at those surrounding uses. The most obvious of which is this huge industrial environment to the east. These are, 40,000 square foot buildings, if not more. They're industrial. They have heavy traffic. They have truck traffic. It is very, very, it's kind of the largest thing in that whole area. As we said, you got townhomes to the north, to the south. You do have some nicer houses. But currently on this property is old dilapidated housing that has been sitting there and is no one is living in. So, due to the consistency, there will be no property value diminution because it is very similar to the property directly to the north. And as we showed, it will not look any more dense than the current uses, and the larger one, the green space, focusing the landscape and trees on the south and north so as to alleviate the visibility to both the south and the north, along with that large setback to the north side. Real quick, I'm going to show you the zoning map for this area, which is Exhibit 5. It's hard to tell when you have in front of you, but the proposed use is here in gray. Behind it, obviously, is light industrial under Addison zoning ordinance. The orange is compact residential. So in essence, Addison has said this is an area that is going to be more dense. You will have the R1 in the county. And then we start having forest preserve area to the south. Obviously, to the west is single family homes, and I think that's in Bloomingdale. But it's kind of a mishmash. You got R1, you got R2B SPPD, you got R3 PD, you got E2B SPPD, and then you have the unincorporated areas, which is heavily residential or forest preserve. Now, I know I said there will not be there was not a problem with the traffic, and not everybody believes me. But in your binder, we have a traffic report prepared by an engineer And the original report is in the binder at Exhibit 8. Originally, several months ago, a peak hour afternoon study was performed by Mr. Tolman's company. And that's what's in Exhibit 8. After getting comments from DuPage, further counts were performed on last Tuesday, November 28th, 2023, both in the morning and afternoon peak. That's Exhibit 9. In sum, even after this development, during the heaviest peak hour, which is the afternoon peak, there will be one car passing this development on an average every 90 seconds. 90 seconds. And there will be an average one left turn approximately every 3 minutes. So you're not going to have a queuing issue of people not being able to turn on or out. And then you add the fact that there are 2 ingresses and egresses for the property. That even limits that even more. So there are a lot of gaps here. It may not be the traffic may be more than the neighborhood wants, but this road can handle it. This road DuPage has no concerns about the type of road. We're going to have to talk to them further about if they need any other improvements. And obviously, we're not going to be able to do this unless DuPage says we're not going to, that we do what they need us to do. So that's something that we're willing to take care of, and we'll handle with DuPage as we go forward. These 2 access points will also allow for emergency access to be utilized by first responders, which other access is closer to the particular unit, thus saving important time. If you have any further questions about traffic flow issues, Mr. Tillman is here to answer them. I will say, as many of you know, directly to the north, both east and west, is Lake Street, which is obviously a heavily traveled state road, and which many of us use to get to 355. And to the north or the south, you go to Army Trail Road. So both of those roads are major access points to 355, to the, which is a north-south of street. To the east of that, you have Rowling, or what, Old 53. I'm not sure what it's called anymore, but when I was growing up, it was just 53. And then you have Swift Road here, which is obviously a cut through for many people as it relates to 355 if they want to avoid the toll. As standard 5, will increase the potential for flood damages to adjacent property. As Mr. Tilgerman talked about, the most important thing is the subject property is being and will have to be constructed to comply with the stormwater ordinances. And as we know, that is limiting the amount of water that can leave the site and the rate it can leave the site, and it will be an improvement over the current condition. It always is. It just has to be. That's what our ordinance requires. That's what we'll be living with. Number 6 will not incur additional public expense for fire protection, rescue, or relief. This use will not create an additional burden for fire protection, rescue, or relief, and then it will comply with all the building and fire codes and be built with a fire suppression system. Fire hazards associated with the current homes are being alleviated by the demolition of these dilapidated homes on the subject property. The Bloomingdale Fire Protection District has raised the concern of adding water to the hydrants. There are hydrants in the front of the property. We understand this issue, and we will need to be handled, and is on a regular basis in the county when these types of developments occur. This is something that the county is used to dealing with, and is something that, you know, will be handled one way, shape, or form. Otherwise, we will not be able to get our permits. Number 7, will not otherwise impair the public health, safety, comfort, or morals or general welfare of the inhabitants, as shown above. Detailed actions will be undertaken to ensure that the subject property shall not impair public health, safety, comfort, morals, or general welfare of the inhabitants of DuPage County. I have heard, and we may hear it tonight, I think I saw it in at least one of the letters from the villages, that the municipalities have some concern about the sewer or wells failing, and then they have to either provide services or take the property into their municipality. The county ordinance and the county itself deem these acceptable systems that work. if we were to somehow say, oh my gosh, we're concerned at some point something may fail, first of all, we're responsible of the property owner to fix it and to find a solution. And two, if that's our concern, then we should just get rid of all the ability to have well or septic in DuPage County. We're not gonna do that, right? I mean, that's a crazy thought, and it's not going to happen in our county. If so, we need to change the ordinances right now. In sum, this project meets the standards for a conditional use under the ordinance. It is not only presumed to be acceptable under living order, but complies with the zoning ordinance. And at the end of this hearing, we will ask for your recommendation that this special use be approved. Thank you. If you have any questions, we're obviously here.
The fire district, you commented about the fire district's remarks. Talk about their comment or their remark concerning sprinklers.
Yeah, obviously we do have a fire suppression system. We do have sprinklers. I think their later remark may not have even mentioned that when they kind of went just to the hydrants but there would have to be sufficient capacity under the county building ordinances to supply those sprinkler systems. If we cannot prove that to the county, we're not gonna have permit.
Right. Then you confused me a little bit about your reference to the 90-foot setback to the north. You
Yes,
said we own that property. Is that part of this site? It appears to be from the site plan.
it's part of the 5.2 acres or whatever the number is.
Okay, so it will be undeveloped and remain, that 90 feet will remain vacant.
Yes,
And then you have deed restrictions. Could you just give us a remark about your deed restrictions?
I'm a little lost on that one.
It's part of your exhibit, whatever, 7 in your work,
Restriction on the workforce housing. I'm sorry, yeah. There will be deed restrictions on the workforce housing program that require that savings, for lack of a better word, for workforce housing, that will continue for at least 20 years. So that no matter what happens to the property, the county will be able to enforce the workforce housing.
and there is no, am I right that the county does not have a definition for workforce housing?
They're in the process of trying to come up with that. They would
Right.
like to see this happen in the meantime, but I honestly think the county is probably a year to 2 years away from being able to do that.
Okay, I wanted to have that understanding. You have proposed workforce housing material with what you seem to refer to as workforce housing requirements. Are they to be,
We're willing to put those requirements in the development either as a deed restriction or as part of the special use.
okay, that's exactly where I was going. So we sort of begin the county's construction of a definition by looking for guidance to your proposed workforce housing limitations and crank them into the ordinance.
And obviously, the county can change those at whatever time they want on the larger scale, but we're trying to get ahead of it because this has now been going on, I think, at the county for 18 months to 2 years.
Okay,
And it's gonna probably be, I've heard at least another 18 months.
okay. All right, I think we should go to questions from the board members. See, this is my township or yours, Mr. Carter? It's mine. Okay, well, it's okay. I asked my question, so you're next. You have any questions?
What jumped out at me as I went through.
Excuse me, can you use the microphone?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
What jumped out at me on the traffic report are the gray areas. What does that signify?
Not, I mean, Mr. Tomerman, or answer that question. I think it's just the ends of the counts, but
The gray areas, are color, they're actually like a yellow.
I have yellow.
Black and white.
no, come here.
I'm sorry, the gray area. Yeah, sorry.
Don't answer yet. He's talking about this.
Oh, that's just sort of an app.
It's just a demarcation of the end.
So you didn't run counts during that time?
Yeah, we ended our counts.
Okay, but doesn't your report say the peak at times are 4:30 to 6?
The bottom, at the bottom table is the,
Can you point to where you're saying, Mr. Ketter?
All right, well, let's do October, the October 26th.
Yeah.
You do 3:30 to 5:15 and you stop, correct?
yes,
Despite the fact that the peak hour goes to 6 o'clock?
we saw that in COVID times in our first counts.
Zero cars, that,
No, not zero counts. We saw the peak on our first count back in 2021. Here it is. This was the recent count. Okay, to double check and compare our numbers versus, you know, a year and a half earlier. And survey, let me talk, please. So 2021, a survey was done earlier. Okay, the peak when he did that time was a later peak than what we're seeing now. The people are back to work, as I think we see where people are working earlier, coming home earlier. I think that, so the peak has changed, is what he's saying. It's slightly moved up. But we did not try and hide the peak hour, and I think that might have been something that got left over from the first report, that's to 6, Mr. Ketter.
all right, because I was just, even at November 11th and November 12th, have different spreads in the time that you counted.
Yes.
The November 11th and 12th was only, we counted only afternoons. Then we came back,
Question is,
Yeah.
why does it stop at 5:15 here? 5:30 there?
because the numbers are going down. The count, the guys doing the counts, our counts,
Okay,
saw it going down. Just-
How would we-
So for the record, okay, so what you're saying is, these are the peak hours, and after that, it's reduced from the peaks. So that's why they stopped showing them, and I assume if we wanted to, we could show the future, those minutes after, those hours, that have 15 minutes afterwards. And if that's something the board wants, we'll get that
I'm
information.
just curious, because November 11th and November 12th, days of, right next to each other, the time period's extended on November 12th, it's cut off on November 11th. It's just, it's great to say that they're reduced or they're, but without numbers.
That information as we go forward, Mr. Ketter, because I have a feeling we're not gonna be done tonight.
Just,
That's a Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. It's 2021, Mrs. Anderson.
okay, I'm not familiar with Mr. Toberman. I don't recall that you testified before us in the past. We do have a number of traffic experts who have testified. Could you just qualify the witness as a traffic expert, Mr. Lukian's? His report says he's a civil engineer and surveyor, but
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, how many, have you performed traffic studies in the past?
Yes, I have.
How many approximately?
50.
And have you testified at hearings like this as a traffic expert in the past?
Yes, I have.
Approximately how many times?
15, 20.
Sorry.
Full testimony, correct.
And how many times have you prepared reports for hearings such as these, or?
The same number of counts I've done over the years.
And is your expertise as a professional engineer, is doing these kinds of counts part of your expertise in the things that you normally perform?
Yes, it is.
I think that's all the issue.
thanks. Mr. Moran, do you want to go next?
Yeah, just trying to wrap my head around this a little bit. I'm looking at 70 units. Let's say 100 cars. So parking, I'm looking at this and just where we're gonna park these cars, and I did notice there's some garages. But I don't think there were 70 garages.
every unit does every unit have a garage? Mr. Gray, or how does that work? Every unit does have a garage, or at least a car. And I'm trying to do it. Every unit has at least one garage and then another spot or two, depending on if it's a double garage in front of in some of these garages, while they may look like one, they're actually two. Does that make, it's a one car garage and what looks like from the outside, like it's like two bays. Does that make sense?
That's it for now. That's it for Jack.
Mr. Murphy?
The parking on the street, how many cars can they, have on the street there? How many cars will?
Do we have an account, Mr. Grant? We haven't included that in our needs under the ordinance, but we will give you that number by the next hearing.
And how many cars, parking out in front of, on the property? Where the garage is, how many cars?
One will fit in front of each garage. And then we do have guest parking as well. And it's not, it's shown up as green and not as concrete or asphalt, but you'll see visitor parking to the north and south of these 4 units, 104.
Okay, that's
So
all.
we'll give you those calculations by the next hearing.
Okay. Fix it up.
By Mr. Schultz. Well, questions, Ms. Anderson? No questions, and no questions. All right, anything else before I go to members of the audience?
No, thank you for your time.
Okay, how many people in the audience would like to make a comment? Would you just indicate by raising your hands? So there's roughly a dozen. All right, here's our rules. When your comments have to be made under oath. I'm gonna limit you to a 3-minute comment period, which is customary. I don't want you to have repetitive comments. If you agree basically with the speaker before you, then simply say, I share the same opinion as the speaker before me concerning whatever general subject matter. So tell us your name, spell your name, and tell us your address for the record, so I know what your relationship is to this particular petition. Now, let me ask, are there is there any members of the villages here that want to make comments? Who are you, sir? Who are you? I didn't hear. And you represent the village?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, we'll take you first, and who else? Bloomingdale, we'll take you two gentlemen first. Could everyone that wants to make a comment be sworn in at the same time by raising your hands?
You do solemnly swear from the testimony you're about to give at this cause now hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna violate my own rule right off the bat by saying that representatives of the two villages will not be limited to 3 minutes, but I trust that you'll be sympathetic to the time.
I'm sure the village that will do an excellent job and I won't need to repeat.
Well, we'll see. Addison is going first by virtue of alphabetical order, or you're just that kind of a courteous guy?
We're very courteous in Bloomingdale.
Excellent. Go right ahead, sir. Thank you.
Remove the board.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to knock them. I can slide over here a little bit. Hey, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you to the board here, members of the commission, for allowing us to talk. My name is Mike Crandall. I am the Community Development Director for the Village of Addison. I'm here tonight. Our village manager is here as well, representing our elected officials who are in opposition of this project that's been proposed before you tonight. A few of the reasons I'll state why we oppose the project, and it sounds like, based on the presentation I heard this afternoon, or just recently, that it's in contradiction to some of these points. But
We are stating that this is an extensive, dense project. We feel that it's a compatible transition between this development and the adjacent properties. As you saw with some of the appearance of these buildings, we felt that from an aesthetic standpoint, that this was not really consistent with the surrounding developments, at least residential developments here. And we had all the developments thrown into this argument. I don't think we can compare the height or the size of industrial buildings to residential developments. We also don't like the fact that there's rentals. Addison has over 1,200 rental properties in their community with about at least approximately 4,500 rental units. So adding more rentals to the area seems pretty extensive. We're not against affordable housing. Addison has a project that got approved that's in the center of our town, really right across the street from the village hall itself. So this has nothing to do with an affordable housing issue. It just really has to do with the density of the project. In addition to that, we do have some concerns about the stormwater management. We don't have preliminary engineering plans to perform a review, but that's something that we understand too as municipal officials, that they still have to get through permitting. They have to get that approved, but we do have concerns about that as well. That property to the north that's shown on the exhibits, that's actually in Addison. So we're talking about it's part of the development. It's used as part of the density in the floor area ratio. It's not even in the county. It's Addison's property. So if the developer decided to sell that, or the owners decided to sell that later, that does affect the project as a whole. So please take that into consideration tonight when you're considering their decision here. And as the petitioner's attorney indicated, that we do have an issue with the septic system. In fact, I could ask everybody here, I'm not sure if this is a multifamily development. I don't think the county code allows for a septic system. I could be wrong. That was my research that I saw on that. There may be some other approvals for these private septic systems, maybe that they have to get through the Illinois Department of Public Health. But this is very odd to have a project of 70 units being supplied with a well and then also with a private sanitary system. And we probably would have an issue with that if they could not repair this. We would probably not want that back to our systems, just basically for the burden that it creates to our systems. But not only that, the burden that it puts on our public works department to try to maintain, if they were to connect to the east to us, to maintain the sanitary sewer system as well as the water system. Just from an access standpoint, easements that are granted from the properties to the east, topography issues, trees, all different types of things that are going to be difficult for us to access those water mains and sanitary mains. I don't want to go back in time, but the developer here tonight did propose a similar project in town, as everybody probably knows, in Addison in 21 and in 22. They were denied. The density of those projects, they were proposing 67 units initially. They ended up dropping it down to 53 units. Our Planning and Zoning Commission and our village board denied that. Couple quick comments and then I'll pass this on. After looking at the zoning ordinance, the DuPage County zoning ordinance, Article 14, administration and enforcement, conditional uses, general provisions and standards. So under general provisions, it talks about residential plan development shall provide for dedication of reservation of land or park and recreational purposes and land for school sites or cash contributions in lieu of the actual land dedication or a combination of both in accordance with the DuPage County subdivision regulations. So the question is the land going to be provided as part of this? Is it going to be cash or lieu? Has that been discussed yet, or is that preliminary? That's a question that I have, if that provision is going to be met in the code. That in that same section, I should list the sections. That's 37-14-14.3 under A, general provisions, item number 4. Under that same code section and item number 5, this says the county board may vary the bulk regulations for this chapter for planned developments if such variations are consistent with the general purpose of the ordinances and will result in better developments and thus be of a greater benefit to both the occupants of the development, but also to the surrounding neighborhoods. So I'm trying to figure out how, or at least I'd like to have explained to me how the increased density, the greater floor area ratios, and the reduced setbacks benefit both the occupants of the development and the surrounding communities. So maybe that can be taken into consideration later in this meeting or at the next one. Under B, under that same code section, B, exception to district requirements. The DuPage County zoning ordinance talks about within a planned development. Remember, that's what's being proposed here tonight is a planned development. Not more than 30% of the total land area of the zoning lot may be devoted to uses not permitted within the zoning district. Remember, this is zoned R2. This is single family zoning. We're proposing a multifamily development here. This provision would require that 70% of the total land area be devoted to uses that are permitted within the R2 zoning district. It appears that 100% of the proposed uses, although only 20% of the land area, are not permitted within the underlying R2 zoning district, which is single family detached. Under item number 2 of that same section, dwelling units permitted in a residential plan development, the maximum number of dwelling units permitted shall be determined by dividing the net residential land area contained in the zoning lot by the minimum lot area required per dwelling unit by type of unit permitted and or proposed in the district or districts of the zoning, or is properly located. Those areas of the zoning lot set aside for open space may be included in determining the number of dwelling units. So section 37-702.3 of the DuPage County zoning ordinance requires a minimum lot area of 40,000 square feet per dwelling unit within the R2 district, which would allow a maximum of 5 dwelling units on this property compared to the 70 that's being proposed. By proposing the 70 dwelling units, the developer is proposing only 2,875 square feet of land area per dwelling unit. Bonus dwelling units, that's also permitted or as within a plan unit development. It talks about within a residential plan development, the number of dwelling units permitted for the 30% of the total land area. Sorry, I said that wrong. Within a residential plan development, the number of dwelling units permitted for the 30% of the total land area of the zoning lot described in section B.1.A of this section shall be gross density permitted on the zoning lot and increased by a maximum of 20%. So I'll try to run through this quickly, but hey, bear with me here. The total area of the subject property is 201,247 square feet. Adding a 20% density bonus to 30% of the lot area would result in 5.33 allowable dwelling units as opposed to the 70 that are being proposed. 30% of the lot subject to the 20% density bonus is 60,374 square feet. Divide that by the 40,000 square foot per unit, that equals 1.51 allowable units times 20%, the 20% bonus is 1.81 units. Plus 70% of the lot not subject to density bonuses, which is 140,873 square feet divided by the 40,000 square feet per unit, I'm almost done, equals 3.52 allowable units. 5.33 maximum total dwelling units. That's the 1.51 plus the 3.52. So please take that into consideration when you're reviewing this request. Item number 4, the total floor area of the planned development shall not exceed the floor area ratio FAR established for the individual uses on the zoning lot, provided in the underlining zoning. This is single family, including the bonus unit. So the developers are requesting a variation of this requirement to increase the maximum floor area ratio from 0.25. In the petition, it says 0.64, but we heard tonight down to 0.55. And then perimeter setbacks, buildings or structures located on the perimeter of any planned development shall comply with the minimum front, side, or rear yard requirements and landscape yard requirements of the zoning district in which the development is located. Again, zoned R2. Perimeter setback yards may be included as open space. So the developer is requesting a variation from this requirement to put 18-foot yards where a minimum 30 is required. And that, I believe, is it. I think the petitioner attorney answered my other questions with regard to the fire sprinkler system. We talked about if the septic fails, how Addison is not going to be inclined to connect. There will be IDPH approval to install this private sanitary system because I believe the county code does not allow a septic system for multifamily properties. And just going back to Nicola Court, which is the residential development in Addison that was approved in Addison to the north. Nicola Court has 5 buildings with 19 units in it. And it's a 2.38 acre property. for 103,659 square feet. The proposed development, as I mentioned before, it has a land area of 201,237 square feet, with the proposing 7 units.
Sir, could you just educate us a little bit, if you know the nearest public sewer and water distance?
The distance I don't know, but it's immediately to the east. The problem is it's not necessarily that accessible, as I mentioned earlier on. It make it very difficult to connect to it. Easements that need to be granted, equipment that the village would have to, we wouldn't be able to provide equipment back there. Okay, to us, it's a big problem.
Thanks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Mr. Lukan's, we clearly will have another hearing because I'm not going to ask you to respond to the detailed information at this hearing, but and we'll need some guidance from staff and the state's attorney as to the distinctions made concerning the county ordinance. Yeah, Mr. Bloomingdale.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Peter Scalera, Scalera, Village Manager for the Village of Bloomingdale. I wanted to come before you this evening. We did submit a letter of objecting to the project, and I just wanted to confirm that the mayor and the village board do not support this project. I won't repeat a number of the items that are my colleague in Addison, because I do want to abide by the rules so that others have an opportunity to speak this evening. The village does have concerns in regards to, similar to Addison, with the densities. We disagree that the units are not compatible with the adjacent neighborhoods. We have strong concerns in regards to the impact to traffic with the additional vehicles that would be part of this project, as well as hesitation in regards to the explanation provided in regards to the drainage. The village of Bloomingdale, some of the water that drains from this site does currently come into the village of Bloomingdale Golf Course Pond. And we haven't been able to review the engineering plans, and we do not agree that we will still not be, that this project will eliminate that drainage to our community. As well as we have strong concerns in regards to the septic field, and that's being proposed as part of this project. And other than that, I mean, it's a project that the village supports development. However, we only support sensible development, and this is not a project that fits within that area of the community. And we ask that you please deny the application for this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I go forward, could we select our next hearing date? Give us some guidance if you would. Probably be January.
We have all Thursdays in January available except for the first Thursday of the month. That would be recommendation meeting.
So January 11 or 18, either of those make sense.
I would prefer the 11th.
Okay. So we're gonna hold our next public hearing on January 11th at 6 o'clock in this room. Now, I say that not at this point rather than at the end of the hearing, because any of you who wish to speak will only be permitted one opportunity to speak. If you speak tonight, you cannot speak again on January 11th. And we have some significant detailed information to be presented by the petitioner in response to the remarks from the gentleman from Addison Township. I'm sorry, Village of Addison. If you want to speak, that's fine with me, but as I said, you won't be able to address the give and take on these important issues that were raised by Addison. So you had a question, sir?
Yes, sir. Question regarding the submittals.
Who are you?
My name is Joseph Fortunato. I'm an attorney for Ms. Steck and Mr. Benz, who live at 5N041 McDaniel Road. So they're right nearby. Question is if they're.
Could you step up to the microphone? If you're an attorney representing, or you're going to speak in their behalf?
Well, I had a question
Fire
regarding,
away.
I just had a question because there's gonna be some submittal of information prior to the next meeting, and I was wondering if that information could be made available to the public so that we could examine it and come up with appropriate questions.
That's an outstanding
We
idea.
will submit that through the portal, so we will all do the public forum.
Good.
So rather than make a statement right now, I just wanted to clarify that issue.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you.
Okay, very good point. And what's your timing on being able to respond in writing? I mean, you may amplify your written response at the hearing, but can you resolve this concern a week in advance?
Which concern?
The written response, the material, the written response to these items.
Okay, and I guess I'm just trying to be real clear with it, because we're gonna provide things I promised in the hearing, such as site plans and all that,
Right?
that, no problem, traffic. Are you asking me for a written response to Addison's comments? That's what I'm trying.
Well, I think that's what the thrust of your point was, correct,
Yes,
sir?
exactly.
Yeah, can you do that?
Not sure we will. If you want a week in advance, I'm sure. I mean, the bigger question is, I think we have to sit down with the county, understand, because there's only ordinances. And we're trying.
Well, you've got a month.
Correct, that's, yeah, we'll go to.
Okay, so let's accommodate this attorney by asking you to submit whatever you're going to submit in response to these ordinance items, alleged conflicts, a week in advance of the hearing on the 11th. Make that available through our online system, and then you can have access to it online, sir.
So.
Well, everybody in the world.
Yeah, you made it look like it was only one.
Sorry. Okay, so now, having said that, are there any other procedural questions that I can answer tonight? And then I'll go to whether or not there are those present here that want to make their comment tonight rather than after the hearing on the 11th. Procedural question, yeah, you're first.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah, if it's a simple question, maybe you can just tell us your name and ask it from there.
Okay, Meena Patel, I think they're like directly behind the.
Yeah, I can't hear you. Maybe you need to step up. I got Nina Patel.
2%. Most people know me here, Meena Patel. I live in Bloomingdale. I have a home right directly behind the new subdivision that's being. The question I have is, what wasn't discussed is the snow removal portion of the conversation. So nobody's actually talked about if we have a major snowfall, where does all that snow go? They have no place to put that snow.
We'll get that presentation at the next.
Yeah, so that's a question that was missing. Also, on the water, the study that was done on where rain will go. The level of rainfall, we've had 5 inches, 6 inches, all of our homes on the back have all flooded. So for you to say that there is no issue, I would say it's probably wrong, because we all have super.
Wait, please, I
publicized.
was really inviting your procedural.
Yeah, so those are the two that I wanted them to address when they actually come back to us.
Okay, fine.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And then you have a procedural question, sir?
He did.
Yeah, I know he did. Yeah, this Calvin Klein guy over here.
I think you should allow, if I speak today, you should allow me to speak again if there is more information I develop and I have objection. By restricting that if I speak today, I cannot speak again, you're limiting our options.
You know, I want to be very careful to follow our ordinary rules. And those ordinary rules are that any member of the audience is permitted to speak once. I'm advising you, I don't want to, this is not a dialogue. This is your public comment. You can make that now based on the record that is gone before us this evening or later. Sir, do you have a question?
Yes, my name is James Tierney. I live on the Nicola Court in the Village of Reno homeowners. A question about the comments that may have been submitted by the public, usually in the public comment form. I see many people here tonight who probably have submitted comments. And many who are not here who have probably submitted comments. Will those comments be preserved for any subsequent meeting of this board?
They go to the minutes, not the record, because they're not under oath.
Yeah, that's what I tried to suggest earlier. They have not been submitted under oath, therefore they are not part of the record.
May I ask what they are part of?
Public comments,
Just public comment.
right?
Do you see them?
Yeah, they're right there.
Oh, okay. So you preserve them in some shape or form. My question is, should they be resubmitted
If I,
Next meeting.
for the next?
well, I'm gonna ask that you confer with the staff as to whether they can be put in the form of a petition or somehow be made part of the record. So we'll ask you to confer with our staff about that after the hearing. I don't mean immediately tonight, but you know, in the next period, short period.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have one, just.
Do you have a question?
So, my name is Natalie Stack. I reside at 5N041 Steiner Road and.
Yeah, this is just a question. So Natalie Stock. What's that? Is that your client?
She is, but which, I'm asking a question. I can ask a question, right?
Apparently.
Yeah. My name is Natalie Steck, STEC. I reside at 5N041 Medina Road. I just, for the next meeting, if currently all 6 lots are listed for sale with Land Partners LLC, we would just like to understand how a pending potential listing for sale and the current owners, with this being advertised as a high density investment opportunity, if they can address what's being represented here with what's being asked of the board.
I'm not sure I understand that. Would you speak to the petitioner about that clarification
Sure,
after the hearing?
I can give them copies.
Yeah, I have that as well. I've seen it. Maybe it's part of this, I forgot. But so I'm advised that the comments, the 155 comments will be placed at the end of the minutes for this evening's hearing. Now, you had a procedural question, sir?
Yes, I do. It's along the lines of what that guy said.
Who are you?
Pardon me?
Who are you?
My name is Rob Zanzant, Vice President of Medina Lake Estates Homeowners Association.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
You said it's your rule that we can only speak once. Was that rule ever published anywhere? Was it published on your DuPage
Yeah,
County
yeah,
website?
it's published every time I have a public hearing. Every time we have a public hearing. We publish it by announcing it at every public hearing.
You publish it by announcing, but meanwhile, people have turned down.
Yeah, I know you don't like it. Apparently you don't like it. So I will note your exception for the record. Okay, anybody else have a procedural question? Sir?
Can I just ask, are we going to get updated traffic information because of the timings and the dates that they have are not current?
I don't think so. I don't think that's the petitioner's intention, but I don't know.
Can we ask that? Because
You may question the petitioner at your, I mean, right now, if you want to take your time right now, you can ask questions about the traffic study.
well, I don't have details, but I would like to ask if you can do a new study based on better timings. Peak hours are not until 5:15 in that area.
I can't compel them, you know, their record, the record they make is the record that they make.
Sure.
If you have objections to the traffic study, you can point those out in your comment. You can have access to that traffic study by going online and reviewing that item, which is part of the record. Which is the same with any of the other information that they presented as exhibits. The particular one that I think you should pay attention, that everyone should pay attention to, because I'm going to, is the workforce study information, which workforce housing information, which is their exhibit 7. Okay, any other procedural questions? Yeah.
I'm Joanne Pinella. I'm just making not a formal comment, but just a procedural comment. I'm actually drive off the proposed main entrance on the south side, on Erie, on the south part of Erie. I'm at 349 Erie. I'm technically 5, maybe 4 houses away from the development. Yet unless somebody from, another subdivision gave me a flyer, I wouldn't know that this meeting was going on, that this plan was proposed. There's
Okay,
nothing
I understand your question. We follow the county ordinance as to publication of every public hearing that we have. And the property owners, I think is it 300 feet? Within 300 feet of the parcel in question receive notice. Unlike some villages, we don't put a sign up.
But we should, I'm.
Okay,
5 houses
take
away.
that up with the county board. That's not my job.
Because
I agree with you
Okay.
because it's often
I thought
complained
that's
of when I have
how-
100 people in the room.
Well,
So,
I mean,
but we,
zoning should come from something.
I hear you. But, you know, we somehow, it doesn't seem like people were disadvantaged because there's a fairly large group here, and I think there's probably a few more that are aware. Okay, I don't think there's any more procedural questions, so unless somebody wants to sort of take their shot this evening, I'm gonna close the hearing.
I want to take my shot.
Okay, you want to make your comments tonight? Well, stand up and if you don't queue, anybody that wants to make their statement tonight, please queue up. And I'll have you all sworn in at the same time. You want to go, sir? Stand up and get in line and be sworn in.
So we were already sworn in.
Okay, we're not gonna cut you off in mid-sentence, but remember that there's a three-minute limit. I'm told them to stand up and we're gonna swear them in all at the same time.
Hi, I'm
Oh,
Karen.
wait.
Oh,
Is that just 2 people tonight?
No.
Okay, well,
Now we're up.
line up. So, that's it. I have 4 people. We're gonna make 5 people that are gonna make their comments tonight. Going once, going twice. 5 people. Raise your hands and be sworn in. If you're not sworn in and standing in that line, you're not speaking tonight.
did you raise your right hand?
Go right ahead.
You do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this cause now hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I'll be that.
I can't hear you.
Are you generally familiar with the concept of an oath?
Yes.
Are you being facetious?
No, I can't hear it.
Okay.
Everybody else didn't use the microphone.
Then you should go, then take a break, go down there so that you are on the road.
Could you stand next to the court reporter who will have you sworn in specially, sir? For the rest of you that have heard the
You want to swear me?
court reporter administer the oath, would you indicate your affirmance by saying aye? Now, we have special rules for this gentleman. Would you be sworn in again, sir?
You do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give at this cause now hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So
I
help
do.
me God.
I do.
Okay, would you be first?
Yeah.
Name and address and tell us where you live in relation to this property.
Okay, my name is Karen Latham. I live at 194 Annalisa Court in Bloomingdale. Can you spell your last name, please? Latham as in mother. Okay. I'm on the board of the Casabella Homeowners Association, but I'm speaking tonight in my individual capacity, not as a board member.
Thank you.
I live right here. We moved there. We moved there in 2018 from River Forest, have been there for 5 years, and we've learned that we are a low point in the community between Villa Torino and the Casabella Homeowners Association. The wetland area, this area, that's a wetland area. And it is the financial responsibility of the Casabella Homeowners Association. So I'm concerned with water flow that could cause a financial burden to us in Casabella homeowners, as well as personally, with all the comments that have been made about water flow to the north. I would also point out that in terms of traffic, anyone who wants to access 355 from this new property or anywhere along Medina Road has to go north on Medina Road to Lake Street and then east. Because if you go south to Army Trail, you can only go west. You cannot make a left turn off of what is their Walter onto Army Trail. So the burden of traffic flow to get to 355 is going to be north to Lake Street. Villa Torino is referenced as a dense community. I would say that as an immediate neighbor of theirs. And right here, this is basically the boundary between Addison and Bloomington. So we back up to Villa Torino, and I would say that it's a quiet community. It's largely adults and seniors. I think there may be only 2 children that reside in that community. The industrial development that is here, its traffic is directed east. Because if you're pulling out of that development onto Lake Street, you can only go east. You cannot go west. The developments both in Villa Torino and with Casabella, we have very few cars that park in front of our townhomes and none that park on the streets. So I'm concerned about this development with the sheer number of cars that they're going to have and where they're going to park. I'm old enough to have had enough experiences that when the comment is made, you know, the responsibility of the owner to fix it. If this is rental, absentee responsible party, famous last words, because they don't live there. We're trying to figure out what to do with the fence that's on the industrial development's property, because it looks awful and it needs work and we can't get anybody's attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me indicate, you made some substantive remarks. It's the job of the petitioner to reevaluate those remarks and take them into consideration. It's the job of the petitioner at the point of his conclusion to respond to that information, which I'm sure you understood. All right, next person.
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name is Rob Zanzant, Vice President of Medina Lake Estates Homeowners Association. We're the old homeowners association on Medina Road. It's been there a long time, single family. I'd like to say that, you know, I'm speaking for myself and also for the homeowners. And I'd like to say that, you know, I agree with the people who have spoken before me. You know, the comments by Addison and Bloomingdale, you know, were brilliant. They're very educated comments. I'll have to go along with that. I come up here to speak just as a regular person. I don't know all kinds of fancy words. So I'm just going to tell you that, you know, this project stinks. Okay. Not only, you know, stinks, just in general purposes.
No, that's not helpful.
But it stinks because, it's going to be proposed to be on septic. And septic stinks, especially if it's used in a you know, high density type of an area. I'd like to point out that you know, nowadays everybody's germ crazy. They're afraid of germs, and they're going to be using Lysol on their floors. They're going to be using disinfectant soap. They're going to be using bacterial free this and that, and all that kills the bacteria, which is what a septic system runs on. So that whole property is going to smell like a sewer. And then the water from that property is going to run off into every other village in the neighborhood and also, you know, in other places and make the whole community smell like a sewer. So when I say it stinks, I mean it literally and in many other ways. There's going to be traffic problems associated with this subdivision. Bloomingdale and Addison have already turned it down. There's been hundreds of emails and comments about people that have turned it down. You can get you know, the minutes from Addison and hear all the you know, complaints and people that said they disagree with it. But also, I'd like to just say that Medina Road is basically still a residential road. The speed limit is 30 miles an hour. There's no parking on Medina Road. There's 2 90-degree turns on Medina Road. Medina Road goes to Walter, which goes to Byron, which then goes to Walter. You know, they claim it as a county road, and it was turned over to the county for snow plowing purposes, but it's really a residential road, you know, by the way it how wide it is and, things like that. They've admitted in their, presentation that they've actually cut back on parking spaces, to permit, emergency vehicles or what have you to get in there. One lady in the, meeting in Addison commented that, she lived in a subdivision at one time where the school buses couldn't, get inside the subdivision because of the 90-degree turns. And, so, where are the school buses gonna pick up the kids on Medina Road?
Could you wrap up, sir?
Yeah, I guess I could. We're all against the project. And, one last thing about the water, our wells are starting to go dry. The golf courses and some of the other places are pumping out the water sometimes in the heat of the summer for, water sprinkling purposes. The water is very hard. I have a water purification system, and they want to use a sprinkling system for their fire protection system, which is going to get clogged up by all the iron in the water.
Okay, thank you very much. My earlier remarks indicating that's not helpful were intended to suggest we disfavor disruptions of our hearings for applause or hoots and hollers or whatever. It just delays things. It's not instructive and it doesn't advance the cause. I know. Never mind.
The only reason why I'm up here,
Can you?
Well, tell us who you are.
I'm Joanne
Microphone,
Capella.
please.
I'm actually the
You
owner.
go to the microphone here.
I can usually talk pretty loud.
Okay, wait, I wasn't finished with my comments for this gentleman. Sir, you indicated that you represented the homeowners association. I have a couple of comments from various homeowners association. We would request a letter from your homeowners association on letterhead confirming that your remarks were made in behalf of the association. That is another standard procedure, so you can submit that.
Well, I said it was on behalf of myself and the homeowners association, so take it as you will.
I'm not sure that I was clear about that. To the extent that you are representing the homeowners association, I don't need a letter from you indicating that you represent yourself, just the homeowners association. All right, ma'am, your turn.
Hi, I'm Joanne Canella. I'm the owner of 349 Erie Circle. And just to give you some graphics, this is my house right here. So when we're
Okay.
talking about density, you have to look at the schematics here. We're looking at this compared to this. And when they say that, we're don't have a density issue when you're putting 70 families potentially with 2.5 kids on the average in an area that only houses about 10 houses, there's going to be an issue with density. There's going to be an issue with the way it looks compared to the houses, not just to the north of it, but also to the west of it and to the south of it. Medina is a residential road. It ends in about half a mile. And all that is, as it was said before, 30 miles an hour. It's all residential, small children running around. You're putting in, and I apologize, I don't know all the information, but I don't know how many of the units will be rental. Is it 100% or 20%? 100%? So you're looking at more of a transient, population in the area. Most people will sign a 1-year lease. They do not own the property. I've dealt with leases and I spent half of the time renting the properties and the other half trying to get them out for failure to pay. So we're not dealing with the same type of population that resides in the area with single family homes, with more high-end homes. My home is 5,000 square feet. Now they're proposing to put in how many? 7, 8 people in that space. So it's not going to be the same, and that, when you're talking about density, just look at the schematics. Don't look to the north. These are beautiful townhomes. They're 2,500 square feet. They're single family homes. When you look to the west, these are single family homes. They're averaging 39 to 4,000 square feet. They're single family homes. The traffic, yes, the lady who preceded me was right. It will go north because we cannot go south. And in spite of what the traffic reports give you, traffic is not at peak at 3 o'clock. You get school buses there. But traffic peaks when people get home between 5:30 and 6:30. So I apologize, I don't know everything that is involved with this, but just from viewing what I've seen, and I don't know whether there's an actual blueprint of what the buildings will look like, but what I've seen earlier, the plan does not fit into this area.
Okay.
It's not a commercial area.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Mr. Lukahans. The audience answered her question as to whether the percentage of these units that are rental. Is it indeed 100% of the units will be rental units? Most likely not yet determined. Okay. Thank you. Next.
My name is Parag Kshatriya. I live at, last name Kshatriya. I live at 364 Dublin, which is right here. I just want to go on record that I am opposed to this project. I'm very scared of the density of the population that this project will bring to the community. I'm assuming that most of, if I heard correctly, that they're estimating about 22 to 49 kids will be part of this project. I believe the Bloomingdale schools, DuPage and Westfield are probably not set up to take on another 22 to 49 kids. I know in the next year or two, we're going to full day kindergarten and we're already strapped for space, right? Right now we have half day kindergarten, they're going to full day kindergarten. So that's something to think about for the Bloomingdale school districts. As far as some other points that I wanted to discuss was just, I'm a little confused because this looked like a townhome subdivision, but you're packaging in 70 units into this subdivision, which kind of scared me for the number of people, the number of cars. If I look at the diagram, I count 44 townhomes at the face level, which is 88 parking spots. As far as I understand, 2 per unit. I'm not quite sure where 70 units, I'm not quite sure how many number of cars we're expecting to be in this neighborhood, where they're gonna park. I understand there's only 8 additional spots, that 8 additional spots are being planned in the community for guests, contractors to come and visit. Again, I live right here. This is the entrance into the community. I know this area is gonna become a parking lot for that community. I do not want people to park on that Erie Court or Dublin or anywhere else in the community across Medina Road right there. That is definitely a concern of mine. Also, with the number of people coming into the community, the density of the number of people, I'm not quite sure. Somebody mentioned like 180 some people will probably be living here throughout all those units. Rental units, safety is an issue. If these are transient people, you know, I have a beautiful park. The whole community has a beautiful park that we've been sharing. All of a sudden you have 100, 200 people coming, 200 people, new people the following year. You know, all of a sudden you don't feel safe at the park that you've grown up across. And again, I just want to go on record, I don't want to spend too much time. The well and septic just seems outrageous. I'm not quite sure how that, I'm not an expert. I'm not quite sure how that creates pressure for fire suppression and stuff like that. I won't claim to be. But one other thing that I just wanted to reiterate, I think somebody mentioned the snow removal process. I don't really see where in this diagram the snow will be pushed. All I see are driveways. So where is that snow going to be pushed? It's going to get pushed to the other side of Medina. That's the only place I see it going. So that's another concern of mine.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Your name and address, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is James Tierney, Tierny. I'm the resident homeowner at 2406 Nicola Court in Addison. My home is in the Village Reno Townhome Complex, where I'm on the Homeowners Association Board, and on whose behalf I speak to you this evening. Now, Village Reno is, as you've heard before, is adjacent to the north of the development under consideration. The R19 townhomes combined with the 24 units in Casabella, our neighbor to the north, combines for 43 townhomes in an area almost twice the size as this proposed development. Now, the development, as you've heard, would have 70 housing units. Based on US Census data, the average household size in DuPage County is 2.65 persons. This means that an estimated 185 residents will be added to our neighborhood. We'll also add 140 vehicles to local traffic. That's based on the average of 2 vehicles per household per family on data, which is available in Data USA, if you're interested. Now, I've heard the arguments about population density, but the increased population density may have a place in urban and suburban planning, provided that the increased density is appropriate to the intended location and does not pose a detriment to the surrounding neighborhood. Our view is that this development increases density far beyond an acceptable threshold and poses a significant detriment to our neighborhood for some of the following reasons. And I've not seen traffic studies, but adding 140 vehicles to local traffic on Medina Road, it seems to me, raises safety issues. Realize that starting from Lake Street and heading south for the entire mile-long stretch of Medina Road, it has no stop signs, no crosswalks, or dedicated turn lanes. It seems to me that Medina Road is just not suited for this additional traffic. I know from talking to neighbors along Medina Road that there is flooding. And I've heard the petitioner's statement about drainage and those types of things, and I won't pretend to understand all those things fully. I'll have to rely on experts, but it seems to me this could increase the frequency and severity of flooding. So given the increased density, traffic noise, and possible flooding, we believe this development will diminish the value of all the surrounding properties. So we believe the development will have a negative impact on the safety, health, and comfort of our neighborhood. But for these reasons, we urged the Zoning Board of Appeals to find that the petitioner's request is not in the best interest of the affected neighborhoods and DuPage County. And further, that the Zoning Board of Appeals recommend to the DuPage County Development Committee and the DuPage County Board that the zoning petition be denied. And any construction of Medina Road residents be prohibited. Thank you.
Thank you. What's your homeowners association, sir?
Village Torino Homeowners Association.
Okay, I already have a letter on that homeowners association letterhead, so you don't need to do what I asked the last gentleman to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll close the hearing for this evening and we'll reconvene at 6 o'clock on December, what was it, 11th?
January.
Sorry, January 11th in this room. We'll begin that with the follow-up presentation from the petitioner and then any questions from the board and then back to public comment and likely we'll close the record at that time.